できます。ずるいです。私も。はい。私のことはテレスとお呼びください。私のことはシルクでいいよ。テレス。シルク。テレス。あら、私のことも。
Source: The Aristocrats' Otherworldly Adventure. Welcome back to AniRecapz. Like and subscribe so you never miss our quality uploads. The story continues after our MC gifted his mentors with an extraordinary gift of magic bags he made from the leather of the Blood Ogre and the Earth Dragon. Even after the mentor's contract has expired, Kane still fights monsters in the forest as his exercise, and he easily defeats a red dragon with a single slash. Knowing he had defeated a tough one, he checked his status window to see his current level, expecting it to increase slightly. But it turns out that by defeating it, Kane gained 2 times more than he expected, overdoing it with his magic increasing over 1 million, even earning the title of Enemy of All Monsters and Dragon Killer. These magical happenings started when he died from protecting 2 girls in his past life and reincarnated as a noble from a magical world. Gods favored with and grant him level 10 protection. However, Kane has kept this secret from everyone. 2 years later, Kane has grown old as a 10-year-old boy. They rode the royal carriage and journey toward the royal capital for his debut. It is an event that the noble's sons must go through once they turn 10. This time, it's Kane's turn. Rain was excited to live with his loving brother inside the capital walls and suggested he also start attending school. But their father explained that it won't happen unless he turned 12, which was 2 more years later. Kane asks his sister whether she's just excited to go to school, to which Rain responds that she will top the entrance exam and work hard as his big sister. After that, he asked his father how many hours it would take to arrive. His father responds that it will take them about a week to arrive, not counting the hours when monsters will get in their way. Because of this, Kane scanned the whole area since he wanted to help the guards. Then he saw danger ahead of them, 3 kilometers ahead. With that, Kane explained that the people were in danger because they were outnumbered, so his father ordered the first batch of his guard to rush ahead of them. But Kane couldn't calm down and was still bothered, so he excused himself and rushed towards the danger, outspeeding their noble guards with his boost magic. Afterward, the people in danger face off with wild and powerful boars, slowly killing the royal guards. With 1 healthy guard, he defended the carriage with everything he could, getting a slash from the boar. Fortunately, Kane arrived at the scene on time. At first, the royal guard scolded him for being a child. Yet, Kane didn't mind his words as he continued to fight on their side. He was distracted from the other boars up ahead, not noticing that the other boars were closing in on the carriage, but Kane successfully defeated them all with ease. The guard thanked him for his courage but prevented him from staying close to the carriage to protect the 2 princesses. With that, Kane bowed his head as he introduced himself as the 3rd son of the family Margrave Garm von Silford. The guard recognized the familiar name, but their noble guard came, introducing themselves as their ally when they slowed down after seeing Kane there and the dead boar all over the place. The royal guard suddenly lost his balance, feeling tired from the fight. Kane went to his side, asking if he was alright. He proposed using healing magic on him and the other injured guards. The wounds of the soldier immediately recovered and felt more at ease. As for the fallen soldiers, he took them to his magic bag, where he could take them back safely to their families. A few minutes later, Garm and his family arrived at the brutal scene while checking up on him. Garm was concerned about what happened and noticed the carriage's crest, meaning it was holding a royal member. After a few minutes, the carriage's door opened, revealing 2 fine young ladies about Kane's age. It was Princess Telestia and Miss Silk. They all bowed down to him, thankful that they were safe. Meanwhile, Kane can't believe that he's meeting the royals so soon. The 2 girls were still anxious as they thanked the Silford family for helping them. After that, Kane introduced himself to them, showing respect and bowed. Suddenly, Princess Telestia wasn't feeling good because of the trauma she had undergone earlier. With that, Kane offered to help them by giving them relaxing magic to calm their minds. After successfully calming them, they suddenly feel intimate and close to Kane and start fighting over him. They offered to travel in the same carriage because they felt safe around him. It was too overwhelming for Kane that he asked his father for help, but he was also too speechless. Both women are showing off their charm and being touchy towards Cain that he can't stop feeling embarrassed. After a while, the royal guard informed them that they were nearing the town of Renoma, so he asked them to disembark soon. After they arrived at the town to get some rest, Cain was about to leave the carriage and sleep in his own room when Princess Celestia stopped him, reasoning that she felt scared without him, the same reason for Miss Silk. With that, he was forced to sleep with them despite Garm's help to get him out. As soon as they saw their room, their beds were still too close to each other. This little gap between the beds is too distant from Cain, so they moved them closer to him, making him feel anxious to sleep that he barely has any. After continuing the travel, they finally arrived at the royal capital. They were greeted by the vice-captain of the Royal Chivalric Order, Dame von Gazard. He personally thanked Cain for protecting Princess Celestia and Miss Silk. He also thanked him for safely bringing the fallen knights home and aiding his injured fellow knight. Finally, Cain was left by the two girls and helped Dame get the fallen knight's body from his magic bag. After disembarking the bodies of the fallen, Dame informed Cain that he was ordered by the king to an audience. As Cain walked toward the king before many nobles and higher-ups in the royal capital, he received judge eyes in envy. As he arrived at the king's throne, he bowed in respect. The announcer thanked him on behalf of the king and described the happening for everybody to hear, telling the tale that Cain could defeat an army of 50 orcs. The people whispered as they couldn't believe a 10-year-old kid could defeat them. The king proclaimed him a baron and 10 platinum coins for his outstanding work. Corgino, one of the citizens, is against it. Cain is also against it since he's just a child, but there's nothing else he can do. The king was offended that someone weak dared to go against his decision, so Corgino returned to where he belonged. After the formal audience, the king ordered Cain and his father to meet up with them in an informal audience too. While waiting for the king and the others to arrive, Garm complimented Cain for accomplishing many talents and power early in his life. Of his 3 sons, Cain was the first to get promoted highly and get recognition from the king. A few moments later, the king, Miss Silk's father, and the announcer came in and sat down before them. The king started by thanking Cain for his bravery, not as a king, but as Princess Celestia's father. Miss Silk's father, Eric von Santana Malbeek, also thanked him for being selfless. Cain asked them to raise their heads since they were higher than them while his father watched them in disbelief. After they thanked them, the king wanted to discuss Cain's future. Garm pointed out that the only minors who could receive peerage were those who had lost their parents. But the king said that Cain excels in both magic and swords, and he has the protection of the gods. He further explained that their kingdom is not as soft to leave a talented child to his own device. The king said that Cain would receive pay accordingly since his mansion must be maintained. Cain thanked the king for his generosity, thinking that their discussion had ended there. But the king straightforwardly asked him if he would take the hand of his daughter Celestia and Eric's daughter Miss Silk. This surprised him because he felt embarrassed and overwhelmed, not expecting his time with the clingy ladies to be prolonged. The king then explained that they won't be formally married until they reached adulthood, but he could be engaged to them for now. Both fathers aggressively pointed out that they linked arms in the carriage and shared a bed with 2 unmarried ladies. As part of their culture, knowing the ladies already did intimate stuff towards a man, nobody would take them as a bride. In Cain's defense, he didn't do that because he wanted to, but only because he was forced to. This, too, offended the old father that an ace knight wasn't satisfied with their daughters. Before they came up with this decision, they discussed it privately in the other room while Silk and Tellus waited for their decision. The king's right hand is okay with Cain receiving his peerage and giving him a mansion, and having him living in it will show who he truly is. As for romance, the king asked the young ladies if they were smitten with the young man, and they replied with a relieved sigh. The king suggested making Cain his fiancé, but as Celestia answered, Silk said the same thing. So in conclusion, both fathers give their blessing to Cain and take them as his fiancé. Knowing he couldn't say no, he looked at his father for an answer, only to be ignored. Feeling overwhelmed by the pressure of the king and the noble and his father ignoring him, he has no choice but to accept the engagement. The 2 ladies scream joyfully as they reminisce about the night they all slept together. The way they said it brought concern to the fathers, but Cain defended himself by saying that it was the position of the beds, only to make things worse for him. They asked for his discretion as Kane fell on the floor, feeling hopeless and guilty for no reason.